Dude, chill. It doesn't affect you, man. Relax. I swallow the last bite of a meal that's nowhere near being finished because the pit in my stomach tells me that I've had enough. We sit in silence for a moment. Then it breaks. He says, he was just kidding. He didn't mean to insult anyone. He says there's no one around who it could hurt anyway, so he doesn't see why I didn't laugh. You're a man, he says. It doesn't affect you. Silence. I want to tell him he's wrong. I want to tell him why he's wrong. I want to tell him that men encounter sexual assault too. I want to tell him that all genders encounter sexual assault for that matter. So the fact that I'm a man doesn't mean that it doesn't affect me, and that's not even my main point. I want to tell him that there is so much more behind it, but I bite my tongue. My taste buds bleed because I would rather taste the blood of suppressed thoughts than try and spit into plugged ears. Silence. I think about my sister who is supporting her living by working part-time in university and writing for a blog that she created. I think about my grandmothers, one who has served in the process of educating thousands of children over the past 30 years, the other who immigrated to Canada and practically raised my father and uncle by herself. I think about my mother who went back to school after having my sister and I to finish off her degree, who did so while waiting tables in order to help support our family, and who has worked her way into a position where she is a go-to person for moving along projects at her job that otherwise seem at an impasse. I think about all these wonderful women in my life, and then I think, how can he tell me to relax when these women have spent their life on edge? How can he expect me to laugh when I've witnessed my sister get a talk from my parents about how not to get drugged at a club? How can he say that it doesn't affect me when my mother, like everyone else, has done nothing to deserve anything that justifies writing #MeToo on a Facebook timeline, and yet it's there? I look down at the meal that's nowhere near being finished. I know that I can't eat it all by myself, so I offer him some, and I pray to God that he's hungry. Thank you. I said at the beginning of this entire discussion, I've noticed over my time being at Abbott, and also growing up, going through high school and everything, that when young men get into groups, they often they'll joke and they'll pass around all these little anecdotes and stories and stuff like that. And what often happens is that sometimes they'll push the line, or they'll go a little too far, or they'll say something that's offensive, testy, or a part of rape culture like we saw today. And it's become something that among these groups of men, it's almost as if it's accepted, and it's the norm, and it's not a bad thing, but that all feeds into rape culture. And this whole issue is what inspired me to write that poem, because I find that having men and young boys grow up and learn to understand that it's not okay to joke about something this serious, and there's a certain weight to what it is that they're joking about, and they're brushing it off like it's nothing. Having them learn the significance of what it is that they're talking about can help push forward for progress towards a better environment, free of, or with reduced sexual assault, hopefully in our lifetime. Yeah.
And Jeremy, actually, could I ask him one quick question? Just because that's so great that you're doing that, and it's so necessary. What advice do you have then for other young men who find themselves in those situations where they're this is definitely pushing a line, this is not okay, but like you said, it's so normalized and accepted, and you're told be a man, you get excluded if you speak out about it. So what advice do you have to other young men so they can speak up and they can not be compliant and participate in rape culture?
Well, my advice to the young men would actually be to, if you yourself feel uncomfortable, if you find there's something that's not okay to be said, speak up. Because if you're feeling that way, odds are you're not alone. And there's other people who also understand the severity of what has been said and sort of brushed under the rug. And if you stand and make a stand, then that can inspire other people to come along with you. And us human beings as people, we have so much power that we don't realize, or we have so much potential that's never fulfilled because we put all these boxes around ourselves because of pressure that's put onto us by like the world that we live in and the people that we're surrounded by. And just speaking up and having your voice come to or be heard can make, even if it's the slightest difference, it's all like a domino effect, you know? And it could affect someone who will speak up, and so on and so forth.
Well, thank you so much.